Thank you for coming in today. What are your salary expectations? Well, market price would be good for me. Okay, great. And what number would that translate to for you? Hey everyone, let's talk about the best answer to the job interview question, what are your salary expectations? By the way, this is a trap, a trick question. Many unsuspecting candidates get eliminated by this question. Let's look at the recruiter's perspective here. Why would I continue to evaluate a candidate who will only be satisfied with more money than I can pay? Let's see what this candidate needs. This question is not to accommodate you, it's to eliminate you. Yeah, now in nearly every instance, you're flying blind. You don't know what their true pay range is. If you give a number that's too high, you've just eliminated yourself. If you give a number that's too low, it might not make sense to take this job. And you've also just signaled that you're not very valuable. You see how this is a trap? The secret is to answer the question, but not give a number. And you do it like this. Usually when they ask this question, you don't know a lot of details about the job that are pretty important. Benefits, vacation time, sick days, opportunities for advancement, overtime, remote work. Will you have a toxic boss? The list is quite long. So you say, I would need to know a lot more details of the job before I could really give you an answer on that. Sometimes, though, that doesn't satisfy them and they keep pushing you for a number. So you say, well, obviously management here approved this position, so the salary range must also have been approved. Can I ask what it is? And if they give you a range, you just say, that works for me. But sometimes this doesn't work either, so you move on to part 3. Give a wide range, really low to really high, where these two numbers are a stretch, but still within reason. Without knowing any of the details, at this stage, this is all you can say. Saying this prevents them from eliminating you because you demanded too much money. But it also allows you to ask for a salary at the upper end of the range when you get to the offer stage. But Bill, what if they ask this question on a web form or job application where it's mandatory to give a single number? Oh, that's easy. All those details that you need but they haven't told you, just assume they're all best case scenario and it's a dream job. Now, write in the lowest number you'd ever possibly accept. You can always revise this number upwards as you learn those missing details later on. Remember 2 things. Number 1, you can't negotiate salary until you have a job offer. And number 2, in the beginning, they judge candidates mainly on price. But if you stay in the game long enough for them to see your value, they'll pay for value. You're highly employable and you're awesome. So, what is your current salary? Answer. It's not that easy, is it? Hey everyone, I'm going to give you the best answer to the job interview question, what is your current salary? I've been the CEO of a mid-sized company and I've taught classes on compensation strategy to postgraduate management students in university. So I'm quite excited about this topic. But anyway, are employers allowed to ask you this question in job interviews? Well, yes and no, depending on where you are in the world. But even when they're not allowed, they sometimes do it anyway. So everyone still needs to know how to handle this question. Now, I've got some good news for you. Employers can't access your salary history. There is no central database to which employers have access that can reveal your salary history, what other employers have paid you or are paying you now. The only way they would know what some other company is paying you is if you told them. You can see why recruiters and hiring managers would really love to ask you this, and why some do. This question has been quite effective when directed against candidates that are young, overly accommodating, or inexperienced at job interviews, mainly because interviewers often apply social pressure to make you answer. Techniques like asking it very directly, insisting the answer is mandatory, and amplifying the awkwardness by leaving a large gap in the conversation. You'd be surprised how often these work. Here's something I've had to deal with that you might have the misfortune of walking into. An unscrupulous employer, let's call them Company A, wants to find out how much their competitor, let's call them Company B, is paying their employees. So Company A gets someone, could be one of their managers, could be a private investigator, to pose as an independent recruiter. This recruiter then independently contacts several of Company B's employees, claiming to be trying to recruit them for a job. Now, this job doesn't exist. It's all a ruse to do a seemingly real job interview where they probe the Company B employee for various internal and confidential information, like what they're being paid. And just in case you're wondering, it turns out they can get away with this because they phrased their statements a certain way. So, as you can appreciate, we need a good answer to the current salary question that can shut it down, but neutralize the awkwardness and keep the flow and rapport with the interviewer. When a recruiter asks, "What is your current salary?" a good answer that tends to work well is to say, "Oh, I have a personal policy of not disclosing my compensation history, since there are usually confidentiality and privacy issues. I'm sure you understand." If they prompt you further, you essentially repeat that answer. No elaboration or justification necessary. That answer is all they're going to get, and you're going to have a friendly smile on your face when you give it. Always remember, you're highly employable and you're awesome. I'm going to show you how employers think, what it looks like from the other side of the table, and what concepts they apply to you. How much are you worth? You're applying for jobs, going to interviews, or better still, networking. What's a reasonable amount of money to ask for or hold out for? There is no right answer to what are you worth, only a conflicting array of opinions. We see this in the real world where one employer doesn't think much of you and will only pay you very little, while another employer will value you much more and pay you substantially better. Now, wait a minute. Most people will have missed what I just said there, or at least the significance of it. There is no scientific way to prove that you are only worth a low compensation. This concept is something that can work in your favor, not in an unscrupulous way, but in a way that can even unlock your full potential. Conversely, this concept is a headache for recruiters. When they approve a new employee's compensation, since there is no right answer, they often have to go with the most defendable answer. Have you ever done a job interview where they tried to find out what your last employer paid you? It's because they want to anchor your value to whatever that number is. Hey, this is not just my opinion. Their previous employer paid them this, and they stayed. Please don't fire me. The stupidest example of this is when you've recently graduated with a degree in something, and they still want to know what you made in your last casual summer job so they can offer you 5% more. As we've seen in this series, never reveal your salary history. Now let me ask you a question you might not have thought about. From the employer's perspective, what's the purpose of compensation or pay? It's to get behaviors. As an employer, what behaviors do I want from my employees? Well, I want them to show up on time, be enthusiastic to do their jobs, follow the company rules, regard their job as a good job, not quit on me, do their job efficiently and effectively, care about the company's goals, try their best to achieve them, be easy to work with and accommodating, be flexible, trainable, and eager to help, and want to apply their creativity and problem-solving abilities. I want people that are going to do this. If I truly believe you're going to do all this stuff for me, I can't hire you soon enough. Now, personally, I've seen employees who were making six figures who weren't doing any of this. Disgruntled, coming in late, phoning it in, sabotaging their employer. I've also seen volunteers at a charitable organization who were doing all of these and not getting paid. It's easy to get this when you know how. See, what employers want is getting these behaviors. This is what the employee recruitment and selection process is all about. Compensation is just a tool, a necessary evil to assist in getting these behaviors. They prefer not to solely rely on it. Think of internships. You work at a company and typically they don't pay you. So why do you work there? It's because they're compensating you with things other than money. 1, you get valuable industry experience to put on your resume. 2, you can hit up your boss and coworkers for letters of recommendation or referrals. 3, sometimes the company will hire you outright when the internship ends. And 4, There are countless networking opportunities now that you're on the inside of the business. Now, obviously, internships and charities are special cases, and there are some restrictions. Legal restrictions like minimum wage or collective agreements if you're in a unionized environment, these obviously apply. Employers will also have internal restrictions like pay ranges, since it's weird to have a boss paid less than the employees they're supervising. Market price is another restriction. It's often not as big a deal as many people think. This is simply the average pay for an employee with the same skills and experience in a certain region. If you work a very common job in a certain region, sure. However, for many jobs, truly accurate data is just not discoverable. Besides, many companies pay above or below market price to get what they think are the best employees or the most economical workforce, which is usually not how it works out, by the way. So remember, where the employer has leeway to negotiate compensation, 1, they care about getting the right behaviors and they'll pay for that. And 2, your value is the perception of your value. There's no absolute factual reason why you're only worth a low number. Always remember, you're highly employable and you're awesome. And therefore, sir, based on my skill set and experience, I feel that a 12% raise in my compensation is not inappropriate. Well, thank you for bringing this to my attention. However, we've done our research and we find that your current compensation is more in line with the present labor market conditions, perhaps in a year or two. Hey everyone! In this video, in this series on salary negotiation, I'm going to show you how employers assess your value and therefore determine your salary/compensation. Oh, and compensation just means your pay plus non-monetary rewards like benefits and perks, like giving you the use of a company car. Okay, are you ready? Here's the big secret. Companies honestly have no idea what to pay you. I'm serious. See, placing a value on an employee is actually a lot harder than you'd think, especially when it comes to employees that have to make decisions like managers. Even today, management scientists still fundamentally disagree on how to value employees. Let me explain. Imagine there are 2 people. Let's call them, I don't know, Jobs and Wozniak. Jobs and Wozniak create a new company that generates $1 billion profit over 5 years. Then Jobs leaves to found another company that fails and generates $0 profit before going bankrupt. Now let me ask you something. How much value would you place on Wozniak? With Jobs, he created $1 billion of value. But it turns out Jobs could be worth 0. How much of this $1 billion is due to Wozniak? 50%? 5%? 95%? Everyone's going to have their own opinion. The only verifiable, indisputable facts here are that Jobs plus Wozniak equals $1 billion and Jobs on his own equals 0, bankruptcy. And by the way, what's Jobs worth? Let me know in the comments. Now replace Jobs and Wozniak with a manager and their employees. Now you can see what we're up against. There are many ways to assign value to an employee. Number 1, calculate the total cost of an employee's education and training, the things that make them valuable. That's their value. Number 2, their value is the average amount that other companies pay their employees with similar experience and education in this region, if you can find this information. Number 3, estimate the increase to the company's profit that hiring this employee will bring. That's their contribution and therefore their value. Number 4, determine what was the employee's effect on the bottom lines of all the previous employers they worked for. That's obviously their value. Number 5, assign values to the things the employee has according to how valuable you think they are, then add them up. I could go on. It turns out that there are about 10 of these methods that are commonly accepted. The only problem is that these different methods often produce wildly different numbers. So most compensation strategists who do things by the book, like those found in many large corporations, calculate them all and then take the average, triangulate, to arrive at a final number. So already we're going off a number that's based on conflicting and incompatible opinions of what an employee is worth. Don't forget to subscribe for more videos like this, and check out my Get Hired course to go much deeper. Remember, you're highly employable and you're awesome.